Let's talk some Torah. There's a part of this parsha, MISHPATIM, that shocks me every time I see it, even though I know it's coming. You see, from the beginnings of our national story, from the liberation from Egypt, and then standing at the Red Sea, the parting of the Red Sea, standing at Sinai, which is actually more akin to a volcano, and the thunder and the trembling and the shofar. And then this week, Mishpatim, we have a litany of laws, miscellaneous laws that are all about building a just and equitable society, if you read it closely. Mishpatim are the kind of laws that society needs, and in fact, most healthy societies create. Rules about what happens if we harm each other accidentally, and how do we deal when harm is intended? How do we handle these things as a society? How do we talk about healing? How do we talk about taxes and vulnerability? Well, at the end of all the laws, God speaks to Moshe all the laws. Moshe presents the laws to us, and we say a very famous phrase, Na'aseh v'nishma. Right? We will do, and then we will understand, which is, one of those phrases that in Jewish learning we hear all the time. It is a very, very important part of being in committed relationship. I commit, and I will continue to learn. It's what I say with couples under the chuppah. When they offer the ketubah, the wedding contract, one to the next, I say the power of handing this contract is that you are committing by accepting this ketubah to the conditions that are written in it and to the ones you will find out together in life. That is our relationship with the divine. God and we could not have predicted all of the evolving needs of our people and our world, and yet we stood and committed. We said Na'aseh v'nishma. But I want to read you the verses that surround it and then the verses that come after. If you'd like to look it up, it's Exodus 24, verses 7 and 8. I'll just read you the English. It's a JPS translation. Then Moses took the record of the covenant, Sefer Habrit, right, the book of the covenant, and read it aloud to the people, and they said, all that God has spoken, Na'aseh v'nishma. This says, we will faithfully do. Verse 8, Moses took the blood, he had offered sacrifices, and dashed it on the people, and said, Hinei dam habrit asher karat Adonai imachem al kol hadvarim ha'ela. This is the blood of the covenant that God now makes with you concerning all the commands. And part of me goes, what? We have all these rules, all of these laws, and now all of this blood on our bodies? What does that mean? And it brings to mind a comment that's unrelated but feels connected. Chaviv Rettig Gur is an Israeli journalist who just a few months ago went to a conference called the Z3 Conference, a Zionism conference in Palo Alto run by a dear friend of mine, Zach Bodner. And the Z3 Conference is a place where leading thinkers on the Jewish people and the state of Israel come together and explore, not in a politically reactive way, not as a lobbying cheerleading fest, but as a thought-provoking, thoughtful place. And he came away with this very interesting impression that he shared on a Times of Israel podcast. And I recommend, by the way, to explore Times of Israel if you don't already, for really important and beautiful, thoughtful reporting. Chaviv says that he walked away from this American Zionism conference feeling that all the American Jews he knows and all the ones he met were concerned about the breaking of the relationship, the dissolution of the relationship between the global Jewish people, specifically American Jewry, and the state of Israel, the Jews of the state of Israel. He said, but what's really interesting is Israelis don't worry about that. What does that mean? Well, maybe it's just an observation, but maybe it's true. And what does it mean? We can't know everything it means, but he had this suggestion, which I think has some substance to it and might connect to what we just read in our Torah portion. He said, American Jews were saying often during this conference, and we say it often in our conversations, I feel like I'm not sure how to understand or how to maintain my relationship with the state of Israel. It has changed so much. Well, in relationship, it's never one partner who does the only changing. We all grow, we all change. And sometimes because of the way relationships shift, and sometimes because we live much longer than the world ever assumed humans would live, we change so much that the covenant that we made no longer fits. But sometimes it does. It lasts. But here's what I want to say. The love between adults sometimes changes. The blood bonds between parents and children never do. Must never. Not in healthy relationships. And Chaviv suggested that the way American Jews have been reflecting on our relationship with the state of Israel is actually the terms of a marriage. And so our worry that our relationship is in bad shape and we're not sure how to maintain it sounds like a marriage in distress. Now, sometimes marriages in distress must end for the health of both people, for the health of children if there are children. It's complicated, and tradition says that when divorce happens, even the altar weeps, the Mizbeach weeps. But the terms of a marriage can change. Even a covenant between two consenting adults can change. But Chaviv said the reason why he believes Israelis are not thinking about the distress of the relationship between them and American Jews or diaspora Jewry is because they don't think about it in terms of a marriage. They think about it in terms of blood. Now, I don't know if that's true for all Israelis, and I don't know if the terms of marriage are actually the metaphor that every American Jew feels about the state of Israel. I don't. My bond to the state of Israel is blood and sweat and tears and history and humanity. It's bigger than a choice of a relationship. It's my body. It's my home. The words of Rav Kook around this really do speak to me. The former chief Ashkenazi rabbi of British Mandate Palestine said that the state of Israel is not a tool for Jewish renaissance and refueling. Eretz Yisrael is a facet of the Jewish soul, is an organ of my body. I feel that way. But I know that that's not the way every American Jew discusses this. We talk about the details and the terms of our relationship, which is actually a lot like our Parsha, MISHPATIM. We talk about what we must do for each other, the mutual obligation that we face in order to build a just community on this side and that side of the ocean. But when it comes to the terms that end that section, Moses doesn't say, do you sign on the dotted line? Moshe said, do you accept? And he said, and we all said, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do, and then we'll talk about it. Na'aseh v'nishma. And Moshe sealed the covenant with blood. Now, you and I, friends, you and I, and our ancestors, have spilled a lot of blood for the founding of the state, the birth of the Third Jewish Commonwealth. And speaking as part of the UJA family, we spend more than blood. We spend so much energy and money and time and thought being present with our sisters and brothers in the land to continue to build that land, to build our home. Herzl's vision was to create the defensible borders of a Jewish state, to create a haven. Achad Ha'am believed that we needed a Jewish renaissance. Rav Kook believed it was a return to our soul. Jabotinsky believed that we needed to constitute a majority so that we could self-determine. It's so important for us to understand that this beautiful experiment in process, the home that we build together, the state of Israel, is not a choice that we make Jewishly. It is our soul's obligation. It is our children and our parents. There's a beautiful poem by Chaim Nachman Bialik, who is a poet laureate of pre-state Israel. He wrote It's a very famous poem. I only know the beginning of it by heart. Hachnisini tachat knafech. Gather me under your wings. Vihi li em v'achot. And be for me a mother and a sister. It is so exquisite and a little bit painful to acknowledge that some of the founding of the state is based in not having our parents or our siblings, the survivors from Eastern Europe and the first waves of immigrants from Eastern Europe and the vast majority of Israel's population, which is actually indigenous to the land of Israel, expelled to neighboring Middle Eastern Arab nations and then returned. The hybrid of our identity in the state of Israel is born of incredible trauma, but it is more than our sadness, more than our struggle, more than the proposed odious legislation in the Knesset about a Supreme Court override. It is alive in the hundreds of thousands of Israelis showing up in protest of a specific legislative agenda that does not represent the best of our people. But it's not a choice to show up. It's an obligation to show up. Zionism is not a political decision that a Jew makes. Zionism is Jewish self-respect. Zionism is Jewish self-determination, an obligation to the universe to uphold ethical mandates born of the Torah and our unfolding tradition. But Zionism is not a choice. Zionism is our heartbeat. It's not a relationship that is decided upon by two consenting adults in order to contract each other as long as the conditions are met. That's not this. This is blood. Moshe ends the section of Mishpatim that includes so many different kinds of laws with a visceral, physical imposition. It is on me. It is in me. That's what it is. That's what it is to be a Jew in the world. That's what it is. So friends, I'm going to invite you to reinvest your soul's energy, because you have to, with our people's destiny. Please, friends, please, hand on heart, similar to what we've done when we have a moment of need ourselves. Step into your soul's next iteration. Feel your heartbeat connected with the Jewish peoples all over the world. And if you are a member of our community who is not Jewish, and thank God we have many members of our community who are not Jewish, Jewish adjacent, Jewish friendly, Jewish curious, see yourself as part of this next step. Truly, because we need you, and that should obligate you, similar to the way that we have taken care of each other all along. Step into it. This is blood. All right, friends. Let's go into today feeling our heartbeat very strong. Bless you, friends. See you tomorrow.